listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in. Hello, 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 and greetings to all that are listening to my voice. This is Tapped In, and it is one of your hosts, Zakia Bell Rogers, and
I'm Leonard Jones.
Leonard and I come to you from the Communications and Public Engagement Department of Buncombe County. We are the heroes that wear cape.
Today's episode is the fourth in a five-part series that we are doing about the Community Reparations Commission that is taking place here in Buncombe County in the City of Asheville. I would like to introduce our special guests, Tara Brown and Dwayne Richardson. They are here to discuss the work in progress of the Economic Development Impact Focus Area, a work group of the Commission. Welcome, Tara and Dwayne.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
And we also have a young member here. You want to introduce yourself, Sweet Pea?
My name is Barford Wachi Barton. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. He is one of our youth members in the community, and we love to have our youth here. But before we get started, I would love to give you all some context about this commission. The Community Reparations Commission is empowered to make recommendations that will make significant progress towards repairing the damage caused by public and private systematic racism. The 25-member commission appointment were made from the city and county government impact focus area experts and legacy neighborhood. Those legacy neighborhoods are Burton Street, East End Valley Street, Shiloh, Southside, Stumptown, Asheville Housing Authority, and the Heart of Chestnut. The commission receives ongoing supports from the city and county staff to ensure cohesion throughout. Commission terms are 2 years from the appointment, and they will be ending between March and April of 2024. Those impact focus areas are criminal justice, health and wellness, housing, education, economic development. Sorry about that. So let's jump right into it. So Tara and Dwayne, can you tell us about yourselves first?
Tara.
So my name is Tara Brown, and I am honored to facilitate the Economic Development Working Group of the Asheville and Buncombe County Reparations Commission. I have had a career in community economic development and believe very deeply in racial equity. My day job is that I work for Self-Help Credit Union, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement for Western North Carolina for Self-Help Credit Union.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Dwayne Richardson. I am a small business owner. I focus primarily on residential land development and delivering affordable housing. That's my day job. On the Reparations Commission, I'm fortunate to be on two separate subcommittees, two separate IFAs. I'm on the Economic Development Committee and also the Housing Subcommittee.
And so, Tara, I heard you say you're a facilitator, as well as Dwayne, you said you're a member of the commission. Well, my question to you both is, what made you want to be a part of this commission?
So I'll go first. I believe very deeply in reparations. I believe it's my life's work. I'm a white person whose ancestors have been here since the 1700s, so I know very clearly how I've benefited from systemic racism over generations, and I feel like it's really time that reparations are made, and I feel very grateful to be part of this group where I live in Asheville now. I'm not from Asheville, but this is where I am. I own a home. I'm going to be here. I have a son. This is where we are, and I really want to be a part of this community and listening to what Black Asheville wants for reparations and making sure that I do my part in making it happen.
Well, quite honestly, I have to begin by giving a shout out to my best friend in the world, Matthew Bacote.
Mm-hmm.
He was the reason that I decided to join or apply, if you will, for the Reparations Commission. He strongly urged me to get involved, so props must be given to him first. Grateful to be a part of it. My family has a history here. My grandparents and my mother and my grandparents were small business owners here in the city and were directly affected by urban renewal in the 60s and 70s. So we saw firsthand as a small business owner what urban renewal did community, to the Black community. So in many ways, my desire to be a part of the Reparations Commission stems back to ancestral experiences that I saw, and maybe in some small way being able to help to make right some things that were done that were wrong.
Okay.
And also at this time, I'm going to give another shout out to Tara Brown, who has been a passionate leader within our Reparations Commission, and all the things that she just said, she brings passionately to the table, and she works tirelessly for us to make sure we're prepared for everything that we do, and she's clearly both a community and emotionally involved in the process.
Yeah. And so you said the process. So before we get too far in, can you tell us about where, when, and how often you all are meeting, and if the public can attend these meetings?
So the Economic Development Working Group meets the first Thursday of every month at the Burton Street Community Center at 6 p.m. It is absolutely open to the public. We have a strong set of recommendations that we're working from at this point, and would love more community input on what everyone in Greater Asheville wants to see.
Do you have anything you want to add?
No, she's kind of the leadership
Yeah.
of the commission, and so I think that she should speak for those elements of it. As a member, we have different thoughts.
Yeah. So how does this work connect to the work of the larger reparations group?
I think that each IFA is a subset of impact areas in which the community was affected by discrimination and things of that nature. And we'll strongly keep referring back to urban renewal and the impact, but reparations goes much farther back in Asheville's history. But each of the groups is a subset of the mindset of things we have to address: economic development, health and wellness, education, housing, criminal justice, and I think I'm leaving out one, but each of those have a special place in the community and how the community has been impacted. And if we can deliver recommendations and address harms and try and set things in motion that will address those areas, I think we can have an impact.
And so we know with reparations, it's often is discussing to redress or address harms that happen in the community. So what's some of the harms that the Economic Development Group has identified in the work?
I think that Tara would be perfect to answer that.
Thank you so much. So the city and county passed in the summer of 2020 reparations resolutions that really outline a lot of the harms that have happened. So Mr. Richardson spoke already to what has happened with urban renewal, and we know that that is in a lot of people's lived experience and memory, and that impact is still very much felt today with people who are on the commission, people who live in Asheville. So that is definitely one that we're focused on, but of course it goes all the way back to enslavement, and it says in both the city and county resolutions that the city and county had a role in supporting enslavement and the sale of enslaved people. So there's a lot, and it's deep, and yeah, I would encourage anyone who's interested to take a look at those resolutions and read what we are charged with addressing. And we have to remind ourselves all of the time too, because sometimes people in the commission will say, I don't know, we've never done any program like this. This will cost so much money. This will, be unprecedented. And a lot of the harms that that have occurred are what we need to look to understand the scale of what needs to be done to address them.
I think that one of the most difficult tasks of what we're doing is fancy word for counting it up, but the quantification of the impact is one of the hardest things, is to say, well, what was the economic, what was the financial impact? Where was it most felt? How can we fix that? If it was housing and property was taken, what is the solution to try and re-empower people who were disempowered during the economic theft. No other way to state it. But one of the individuals that works with us, and there's several people on the commission that I want to make sure I mention today. Dee Williams has worked exceptionally hard to help with creating, obtaining data to illuminate what the problem is, and to thus help us to quantify what the harm was and create pathways towards restoration of funds, if you will, for those who were harmed. Mr. Oliphant, who could not be here today, is a veteran, so he brings that veteran's perspective. Dwayne Barton has worked long before this commission began, had worked exceptionally hard in the Burton Street community, one of the historic Black neighborhoods in Asheville. He had worked tirelessly for many years to bring programs and opportunities to West Asheville. There are others that I could go on and on about, but from the economic development perspective, those are the individuals who have put their finger on the scale and are hoping to move the meter.
And so I know you had kind of talked about like personal lived experience and the things that you have. In your impact focus area meetings, who are some of the outside like community partners that has been present to help kind of give y'all data or just some perspective on current things that's happening?
Thank you so much. There have been a lot of partners who have attended. I know there's a lot of research going on in Asheville around the impact of urban renewal and the history of economic development in the city, how we got to where we are today. So we've had Dr. Kathleen Lawler from UNCA come to talk about her research and the students she's working with at UNCA to understand the economic losses that occurred during urban renewal and to quantify, as Mr. Richardson was saying, the dollar value of homes that were lost, so we can say these were successful Black communities that were destroyed, disrupted during urban renewal. These homes were taken, this generational wealth was lost, and what's the dollar amount of that? And we've also, Mr. Richardson has given some feedback on that research in terms of his knowledge of housing and housing costs to make sure that that is an accurate assessment and not undervaluing what was taken. We've also had Catherine Kutzel from the Buncombe County Special Collections, she has done a lot of research into the history of tourism in Asheville, the role of domestic workers and enslaved workers as it relates to tourism, and how Black employees in Asheville were underpaid for a lot of times or only had access to lower wage jobs, and what that discrimination looked like and how that played out in the development of Asheville. So we have had a lot of historians and analysts come in to present to us.
Racial Justice Coalition, throw their name in there. So many, I'm sure I'm leaving out some. So I feel bad that I am leaving out names, but yeah, we've had a great deal of assistance. The community has embraced the process, and many people who, Priscilla, her last name escapes me. Robinson, thank you. She has provided a tremendous amount of information. Todd Gregg recently did the Black in Asheville documentary, which was extremely well done, I thought, quite informative. So those are individuals who aren't necessarily on the commission, but who have contributed greatly.
And I would add, with Racial Justice Coalition, it's great because Rob Thomas and others from there are connected to the larger national and international reparations movement, so they have a lot of insight into what's happening in other places, and will sometimes listen to what we're working on and give tips like, oh, Evanston is doing this, or this is happening elsewhere. This national reparations leader who's been doing this for decades gave this advice. So that's been really great to have that input.
So you all have been working how long together?
16 months.
16 months. It hasn't gone by fast. You feel like it's going by fast. Yeah. So in those 16 months, like, what are some of the ideas that you all have come up with?
She has an inventory of them, and so I think I should defer.
So I wish Kim Jones could be here today because this is really an idea that the group has been working on, but I think she has drafted the most concrete version of it and is really putting it together. But the idea is to have a economic development center for Black Asheville to support small businesses, workforce development, financial literacy, access to capital, that is all designed for Black people in Asheville and led by Black people in Asheville, because a lot of the economic development organizations have not been Black led. There's been, you know, of course, across decades, like in any other industry, a history of discrimination, disparities in who gets loans and things like that. So I think everyone in the group is really excited about this proposal for an economic development center and really giving a place where people can come if they want to start a business, if they're looking for a job, if they need support with their business, that has local experts and connections to resources. In addition to that, there's an idea of rebuilding Black business corridors, because that has existed in the past, as we know, on the block and other areas, and no longer exists. So what would it take to have commercial space that is for Black businesses, Black business corridors in proximity to Black neighborhoods, sort of rebuilding that ecosystem that existed before.
Wow. And so with that being said, what have been like some challenges or barriers for you all?
Anytime you have a large group of people trying to come together to accomplish a singular goal, you have a vast array of opinions. You have different expertise that can be brought to bear. And so trying to blend together all the different opinions and professional expertise that can be offered, trying to blend those things into a singular set of recommendations and accomplishments is difficult. We're also, if you will, challenged by the fact that our time together is limited. We have one full commission meeting per month, and we all go to our IFA individual committees, in some cases twice a month. And make no mistake, everyone that is doing it, there's a small stipend, but no one is doing it for that. And the time that is donated to it is a lot. There's a lot of time involved in it. And so the challenges are we're trying to undo or correct or fix something that took a couple hundred years to do for the harms to have taken place, and we're trying to fix that on a limited budget and in a limited amount of time. And so those are the primary challenges as I see it.
So have your IFA, I know some of the others that mentioned, have y'all done any like community events or anything like of that nature?
She's aware.
Sure. So we have not done community events. I know a couple other IFAs have done events organized with the Racial Justice Coalition. I think we're interested in that. The commissioners are going into a retreat on Saturday, which will really give us an opportunity to think across the different issue areas and how all of these recommendations are interconnected, which I think we know, but I think it'll be a really good place for the commissioners to feel good about the recommendations. And I think our group is interested in doing that, but we haven't done it yet.
Well, given what Sarah's just saying, after the retreat, I think that economic development can emerge with the intention of doing some community-based things. Economic development is such a broad set of ideas to bring together. We kind of needed some time, whereas others, other IFAs, in my opinion, could go first to the community and come back with recommendations from the community. and act upon those things. From economic development perspective, it's a little bit different in that you have to identify all of the things that are out there that need to be addressed economically, then put together a plan that you want to put forward to the community. And then after all of that, then go back to the community and say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. So a lot of words to say, we're about ready to do that.
So just even, I know you mentioned going out to community, have there just your everyday being in Asheville, being a part of this community, what's some of the feedback you're hearing from community on the work so far?
People are encouraged. They're wondering what we're doing. They're wondering if we're making progress. You know, it's like anything, you get some negative, you get some positive. But everyone's passionate no matter which side of the fence they're on. You know, I think that like any grand project, you first start, you can't really tell that it's like doing a housing development. When you're cutting down trees, you can't see the houses yet, but the houses are in the plan.
Yeah.
And so we're cutting down the trees now, and we're about to build the house.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you said is that folks are passionate on either side, but it's about, you know, just looking at it and doing what's right for folks. And so, with saying that, is how do you, I know it's a long process, a lot of stuff. You said that, you know, basically diving through 200 years or more of systems that have been created to make these things happen to people, to Black folks. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? How are you all able to continue to do this?
Well, in 1739 in Morristown, which was the predecessor to Asheville, and Asheville would emerge out of Morristown. But in 1739, Jim and Sue were bought and sold in what is modern day Hominy Valley in Candler. So I, in the research at the beginning of this process, wanted to learn as much as I could about the history and origins. And so for me, those two individuals who remain faceless, I don't know any more about them than they were the first two individuals to be labeled as sold in the chattel slavery of history of North Carolina here in this part of the state. And how that comes down through to today and the impact of slavery and discrimination and Jim Crow and all the different things. I'm motivated simply by those who came before me, even as recently as my mother and my grandparents. So for me, it's personal, but yet it's historical.
Thank you. I think for me, it's about the world that I want to live in, which is not the world that exists right now. And I think about my son who's 1.5 growing up here. And I'll just be very frank, when we moved to Asheville, and even before we moved to Asheville, and we were thinking about it, and I would go into a restaurant and it was only white people, I thought, what happened here that there's only white people in this restaurant? And I think as I started to learn before we even moved here, I wanted to know some of that history. So I went on Dwayne Barton's Hood Huggers tour and started researching some of the things, and then got involved when I moved here. And I think it's very clear why that's the case, and who has access to certain spaces and who's been taken out of certain spaces and things like that. So I want to live in a world where everyone has access and it's diverse, and we have, you know, good music and food and community and all of that. And so I think that's what keeps me motivated, is what do I want my life experience to be and my son's life experience.
So we are almost out of time, and it makes me sad because I know there's so much more that you all would to offer. But before we leave, I always love our guests to give one thing that they want to leave with our audience. And since Tara just spoke, I'll go ahead and shoot it back to you, Mr. Dwayne, and you can add what you want our audience to leave with.
That's a tough one. I want the community to believe in the process, to be patient with us in the sense that we are working as hard as we can. Everyone is dedicated to it. we are trying to remain mindful of each community. Asheville has to offer the historicals from the East End to Shiloh to Burton Street to the north side. We're trying to remain mindful of all of those. We are tasked with a very difficult project, but if the community will remain patient with us, stay in support of the commission, I think that we will emerge with something that will be beneficial to our communities, and we'll never be able to undo all of the harms that were perpetrated. However, we can potentially create a brighter future.
Thank you. So I would say now is the time. If you have not given your input yet, grab someone you know who's on the commission, grab, someone from your neighborhood association and let them know what you think, because we're really finalizing the recommendations at this point. So if you want something and you don't see it on any list of recommendations, if you haven't heard something that you want to be said in a meeting, go to the meeting and say it, because we're really moving towards finalizing what reparations is going to look like in Asheville through this process.
And I'd just like to say thank you both for being here and allowing our listeners to hear a little bit more about the Economic Development IFA, a part of the Reparations Commission. And so as we heard with their closing statements of believing in the process and also letting your voice be heard, we strongly encourage community to come out. Let's support the Reparations Commission initiative that's happening here in Buncombe County in Asheville. And we just want to remind everyone that the economic development, if you like the information that you hear today and want to learn more about it, their meetings are that first Thursday at Burton Street Community Center, and that's at 134 Burton Street in Asheville, North Carolina, 28806 in West Asheville. And again, I'd just like to remind everyone that the at-large meeting is held every third Monday at the Harris Cherokee Center. That meeting and all these meetings are open to the public, so we just strongly encourage community to participate in that. And we also, there's other ways that you can get caught up on this process, not just these. It's been great having these interviews over the past few weeks to learn more about the impact focus areas, but you always can go to the City Engagement Hub, and that's at it's at publicinput.com/ABL reparations. And from there, you can find many videos and catch up on the meetings and hear the work and the progress that's been happening. So again, that information, if you want to go online to familiarize yourself with a lot of the work that's been done so far, that again is publicinput.com/ABL reparations. And with that, I just strongly encourage community to participate in this process.
I'd like to say before we leave, thank you very much for having us, for having me, and
Thank you.
hope to see you again, speak with you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, like always, I always like to tie this up. And when I think about the reparations process, and now we're in our fourth section of the 5-part series, I've often, when I've been talking to folks, I've compared it to the cycle of grief. First, you're shocked, like, are these the things that actually occurred? And then you're in denial, like, no, this can't be what it is. And then you're blaming, well, it wasn't me, I wasn't here, and no one, I shouldn't have to pay for what my ancestors did, or I need to be paid for what my ancestors went through. And so you have all of these emotions and all of these levels of phases that people will go through in our community. But hopefully we all can work towards acceptance. This is what happened. This is how we avoid it from happening again. And this is how we move forward. And that is what reparations ultimately does. It takes us, it sits us down, it makes us look at what happened, how we stop it, and how we improve. You know, we think if change is so hard, but when change has been denied, it becomes even harder for those who has been denied too. So here in Buncombe County, we live by, we are one Buncombe. And the only way we're going to be one Buncombe is if we heal the hearts of those who have been broken. If we listen to the hearts and the voices of those who have endured these challenges. And only way we're going to also become one is we work together to make sure that no other hearts are broken and no other voices are silenced. So to each of you who hear my voice, who are listening, get involved. Make sure that you are on top of the news that is coming out in our community about the reparations process. You can't disagree if you don't know what's going on, and you can't agree if you haven't been involved. And so at the end of the day, we are one Buncombe, and you only become part of one Buncombe when you step into that place. So find your place, find your mark, and find your listening ears. And until next time, you've been tapped in.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Learn more about today's topics at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.